Hi guys, it's Akemi with Akemi Kai Inner Beauty, and I like to talk about law of assumption and inner work. Today I am having some technical issues and I'm trying to hit my content quota for getting some stuff up, but I'm having to hold my phone, so excuse me for it being jiggly. And I'm just going to make a short video for this, but I wanted to talk this week about astrology and law of assumption. So let's talk about the difference between fate and law of assumption, or, the idea that we are the generators of our own reality versus we're born in here and everything is already predetermined and we're just following the script. Okay, so I study both. Okay, I study astrology too. And right now I'm in a course for a year. I'm studying evolutionary astrology by Jeffrey Wolf Green, and it's really, really interesting. I highly recommend it. And he was just such an interesting teacher. And in a nutshell, you can go dive into it elsewhere if it interests you. But in a nutshell, it's this theory that souls come in here, they sign up, they come in here with a curriculum already agreed upon, and you have a certain number of lifetimes, and you're going through curriculum across multiple lifetimes in order to go through a very set evolutionary process. And that by looking at people's charts and interviewing and talking to people, you can actually determine where they are in that evolutionary journey of the soul. And this can help you learn like what you came here to do and what you're trying to accomplish in this lifetime and things like that. So it's very, very interesting. Okay, but it brought this up to my attention. I love that my astrology community and the teachers in that community often talk about the interplay between fate and free will. And I love that conversation because as somebody who's practicing law of assumption and learning more about it and putting it into practice in my life, I love to kind of explore that tension. So the way that I've come to see astrology, and if you've listened to any of my videos, I love imagery and pictures, and I like to use analogies to help me to understand abstract concepts. So the way that I like to understand astrology is like those old grandfather clocks. Maybe you've seen one before in a museum, or you have been in a house that had one, like an antique or something, and you've been able to look at it. Or even if you've looked at a pocket watch or some kind of a timepiece that was created in the old style, where it has a series of larger and smaller gears all touching each other with an interplay that overall creates a larger momentum for the clock to tell time. Okay, so I love to think about the planets in that way, that they're all with their orbits, they're like those parts of a clock, and that the planets themselves are the part of the matrix here that like generates fate. They generate experiences on our planet. They affect human behavior. They affect people's moods. They affect what's going on here, from the politics to the personal. And if you study astrology and listen to astrologers, and now I'm not talking about like reading the stuff in the paper that's like, what's your sign? And then it's like, today you will encounter a blah, blah. I'm not talking about that. Like, to me, that's kind of petty astrology. Not to insult anyone who's into it, but I've been studying and I'm very interested in, there's some astrology masters in the community that have been teachers and doing astrology for like 40 years, 50 years, stuff like that. And they, can talk about world events, global events, historical events, things that happen in politics, like large scale events that are shown in the astrology and have been they repeat, like some events in our history, those patterns will come around again, and then you'll observe like similar events and things happen now to those events that happened the last time around, that those same configurations were in the sky or whatever. And I've just come to see the planets and their orbits and their relationships and how they interact with each other to be like the workings of a clock that generate our fate. And your astrological chart is like a snapshot of that picture when at the moment that you were born. And a lot of people, when they're in the astrological community anyway, they're asking like, well, how much is our life predetermined by fate, and how much free will do we have? Like, here's my chart, my cosmic curriculum is laid out ahead of me. Like, do I have any choice in this matter? Or, do I just have to follow and do my chart? Or people will ask, like, I used to love to listen to this podcast that was like the weekly weather, but it was the astrological weather, right? So they would say, these are the configurations in the sky for this that are happening over this week, the major ones, and these are the interplays of those energies that you will see playing out in society outside your house, and also could be within you. And I liked to watch that and listen to that. And they would always say too, people would ask, like, to what degree are we just being kind of pulled by these influences and reacting to them and like being triggered by them and responding unconsciously, like, or do we have any free will there? And I have heard some higher level masters who, have done the work of like the enlightenment path of like knowing what is the greater nature of reality and kind of pushing their human life to its limits. Like Sadhguru, for example, would say a lot of times in his talks that, astrology is very popular in India. And he would say like, don't let those guys like control you. The planets he's talking about, don't let the influences of those beings control you. You can get out from under it and above it. And I love that, because a law of assumption, it says that too, right? Is that you're generating your own reality. Yeah, there's other things here. But if you work on cultivating your own ability to be present and mindfully create with intentional choices and actions and non-actions, sometimes refraining from action, right? You can be aware of those influences and observe them going by like the weather and choose not to express it, even if you feel triggered by it or whatever, and choose to, one of the astrology teachers that I like, she would say like surf it like waves or whatever, right? There are ways to be aware of the mechanism that's generating emotions and energies and experiences here without being like an unconscious, bobber on the ocean that's just like getting pushed and pulled by everything and has no will, right? Anyway, so I just wanted to throw that out there today as my little bit of gum to chew on, that it can be very useful to research and get to know your astrological chart so that you can be aware of like what kind of cosmic curriculum you signed up for in this lifetime. And you could go looking for Evolutionary Astrology by Jeffrey Wolf Green, because it's very interesting, and there are practitioners who will read your chart by that method. And also be aware that you are a conscious creator, and you can get out from underneath influences and above them if you practice working with the principles of law of assumption and generating your reality consciously, rather than just being like battered around by it and by the things that you're observing going on, right? And a lot of that is coming up from out from inside you, your subconscious as well, and other people around you are reflecting back to you your unconscious beliefs about them and the world and who other people are and who you are. So the key to getting out from under and above these kinds of influences is to take your power back and to realize that you're the operant power in your reality, and that ultimately you choose, you generate what your experience here is, and you need to take that power in order to use it. You need to take that power into you in order to use it. It's not going to just happen by accident. Food for thought. Okay, see you next time.